Thank you, everyone. After tough minutes of technicalities, we're ready to start. So I'm here to talk. Mostly all of my examples are about JavaScript, so this talk will include JavaScript, but also other languages such as Python. But I'd like to bring awareness to a very important matter of security inside of our open source dependencies. In order to talk about it, I would like to talk about a topic called supply chain. So, first time for me in Poland, so I'm not sure which car factory is here in Poland. If anyone can help me, I'm guessing like Volkswagen, or maybe it's Germany. But the concept is identical. Whenever a producer makes a product, he doesn't produce everything itself. So this car factory does not produce the tires or the wheels or other electronics. He works with vendors. He focuses on his intellectual property. Same goes with software. This is our software supply chain. This is a process we are all aware of. We, as developers, contribute code into version control systems, usually GitHub or Git-based. After a certain point, we have build components that takes our code and package it together with our dependencies, compiling it either into a component consumed by an application or by human being. And this process is our software supply chain. And talking about this process is we can divide it three major risks. We have source threats, we have build threats, and we have dependency threats. Now, when I talk with security guys, CISOs, about this process and where they are concerned about security threats, this part is usually being told, yeah, we have ways to limit the access to the source control. We can enable two-factor authentication. We can minimize the access to the artifact servers, etc. But when it comes to open source dependencies, this is what scares them the most. This is where they are blind, have zero visibility, almost zero visibility. And this is where I'm going to put the main focus in this talk. So hi everyone, my name is Jossef. I started a company called Dustico 2 years ago, focusing on hunting attackers in open source dependencies. There was many solutions offering detection of vulnerabilities. However, we started to see attackers in open source. So we're doing that for the last 2 years. I have a team of threat hunters. All of our activities are being donated to the open source. So all of our research, all of our tools are open sourced. So you're welcome to check it out. I also coming from a software engineering background for the past 14 years. Mainly cybersecurity, but I also love Vue.js, static websites. I'm really impressed by GitHub's Copilot. It's a fantastic job, so kudos. So talking about open source, I mean, everybody's using open source. It makes a lot of sense, right? I mean, what we all want is not to reinvent the wheel. There is a concept called DRY. Don't repeat yourself. Don't create other building blocks that are already mature, exist, maintained by many users. Most of the code we produce is contained open source code, whether if you know it or not. And at the bottom line, agile development, developers want to move fast. This makes a lot of sense. So usually when we depend on a specific code package, we are asking for, I don't know, requests. But what we are not asking for is their side effects. Let's say transitive dependencies. Where most developers are unaware of these side effects, they are including a package.json, a manifest, stating all kinds of dependencies, third level dependencies, and that's it. The real life scenarios are giving us these situations. Forests of transitive dependencies, can be hundreds of them. Just to give you an example, tangible example, this package called CNC.js, if I want to be a responsible developer, if I want to like code review it and understand, you know, what's inside, what's the transitive dependencies inside and everything before I add it to my product, I would need to go over additional 800 packages contributed by different 600 contributors. It's impossible. We want to move fast. It's creating a lot of job. I'm not going to code review all of these packages. Basically, it's causing us to deal with an open source jungle. This is our real life situations. The ecosystem keeps growing. There is more demand, and there are more packages being published into our ecosystem. So just focusing on NPM, JavaScript conference, over 500,000 of package version releases every month, and these numbers are increasing. And you know, open source is great. There are a lot of good people involved in open source, and we trust open source. And one of the reasons, or the couple of reasons, is we get a good feeling that if it's open for anyone to inspect it, if there's an issue, someone will notice and report it and contribute a pull request and fix it. There are all kinds of scoring mechanisms like stars, and you know, all kind of, you know, if this project is having a lot of contributors, it's probably good. And there's like a feeling if something is popular, it's probably safe, and I should choose this, like, you know, good and popular packages over the new one. And I want to give a couple of examples that breaks this myth. Meet Faisal. He's an open source contributor. He's a cool guy. He lives in Indonesia. He's created a cool NPM package called UIParser.js. Basically, it's a compact package to parse user agent strings. He maintained this project for over 10 years. And this project is quite popular. It has over 10 million of weekly downloads. It is used by giants, even Facebook. Let's say you are creating, you're working on a project and you need to parse user agent strings. Raise your hand, who would choose Faisal's package? I would choose it, but you know what, it doesn't matter. All of you who didn't raise your hand, most likely you already will get it or use it without knowing. So last year, on October 5th, 2021, we saw this on the Russian underground. This is a hacker's firm. Someone was posting, I'm selling a development account on npm.js. It has a few million weekly downloads. And this account has no two-factor authentication enabled on this account. So 10K, anyone interested in bidding starts, right? A couple of weeks later, Faisal, on his GitHub, you know, this package's GitHub page, posted this. He said he's sorry, someone's hacked his account, published a few malicious packages that contain malware. And we saw this, eventually someone bought this Faisal's account and published free malicious versions of his popular package. In a matter of hours, it was delivered to millions of victims. The attackers preserved the original functionality and added on top a post-install script having downloading a credential seeder and a crypto miner. So the goal of the attackers was to mine a lot of cryptocurrency on these millions of users. Okay, so NPM fixed it, removed this package, and we thought this is it, like this ended on this package. But no, 2 weeks later, we saw 2 other popular packages compromised using same techniques. Account hijacking. COA and RC, Command Line Parser and Configuration Manager, combined over 20 million weekly downloads, same malicious code, and we keep seeing more and more attacks on popular packages. Another example is Brandon. Meet Brandon. He's a cool guy from California. He rides e-bikes. Whoever is riding a motorcycle, he rides e-bikes, takes them to the track. He has a cool YouTube channel. This screenshot is from his YouTube channel. He is also maintaining over 40 packages on NPM, making a positive impact, right? One of his packages is called Node IPC, inter-process communication, whenever you want to communicate between processes, great library. Quite popular, have over 1 million weekly downloads. Mature, maintained over 8 years. This year, a couple of months ago, on March 7th, Brandon, not an attacker hijacking his account, Brandon added, using his own identity, committed a new functionality to his Node IPC project. This is a new file he introduced into his project, quite obfuscated. Let me help you out. After de-obfuscating it, this is what he added. So you see there are a couple of steps. He goes into this service, IP geolocation. Probably guess this service replies with the country where the code is executed. So if you execute it in Poland, you get Poland, in the United States, etc. So why is Node IPC inter-process communication library needs to be aware where the code is executed? It's quite bizarre. So he makes checks. If the country is either Russia or Belarus, deletes all of the files. I mean, this is his erase logic. This was the file contents before, and then he places a heart emoji. A rhetorical question, right? Why would Brandon do that? Obviously, it was his way to protest the Russia-Ukraine war. And I, in personal opinion, think mixing politics with open source is a bad idea. I'm not taking any sides, but there are innocent users of his package, news reporters collecting, war crimes and all kinds in Russia or Belarus. So one report said that one of the news agencies got erased all of their evidence. So this is what Brandon posted on social media. He says, "You downloaded my software for free, so I'm allowed to wipe your computer." And this thing is like, he's right. This is all public, documented, open source. So don't blame me. This is open source. First seen, he's coined the phrase protestware. So this is an example of self-sabotage. We see quite a lot of these. So he got quite roasted on social media. Someone said, thank you for teaching me not to trust and code everything myself. But what about his other 40 projects? He has many other popular projects. I mean, millions of downloads as well. I mean, I personally don't know what to do. Like, you either froze it or find alternative. But this man lost his reputation in a snap because he builds up for years, for over 8 years, where he contribute open source code, and then doing that, flipping like that, you lose your reputation. And I have many more examples for popular packages, either corrupted, hacked, or self-sabotaged. So this assumption where you trust the popular open source and you assume it's going to be clean from attacks, it's a myth. So when we study attackers, we see like script kiddies and we see like persistent attackers and improving and evolving. One of the examples, it's this attack group goes under the name Red Lily. My research team tracked them for a couple of months. And at some point, we saw them publish on NPM over 1,500 malicious packages in 1 month. And it's quite a lot. Usually we see like tens or like hundreds, but over 1,000, it was quite impressive. The way they were able to do that is using automation. So they set up an infrastructure using all kinds of bots and automation to create fake accounts on NPM. Whenever you create an account on NPM, you need to like get a two-factor email and validate it. So they automated all of this process. And they set up a virtual machine supporting this. So they were able to bypass the two-factor challenge NPM gives you when you create a new account. So it was like they kept improving, they kept hiding, so they registered all kind of temporary domains. And we saw their payloads kept improving. So they started very simple, plain text, and then they started to add obfuscation, all kind of ways to evade security scanners, even our security scanners, set up their custom infrastructure. Whenever my threat hunter teams find malicious package, generally speaking, we report it to the security teams, either NPM, PyPy, etc. So it was a cat and a mouse game. At scale, we reported over 1,500 packages. NPM removed them one by one. At some point, these attackers noticed this and started crypting us messages using the packages' names. This is one of the names of packages we saw. They flipped us the bird, FU scanner, to share all of these insights. By the way, this website is a static website, open source on GitHub pages like Vue.js. We launched this tracker project, Red Lily Tracker, where researchers, developers, to raise their awareness can look at the collected evidence, ask for the actual malware samples. And at the time of this recording, because we report packages and it's not removed instantly, this one was available for like around a month. So another example is an attack group. This was like a month and a half later. Attack group called CuteBoy. They did something similar, but they reused a free service called MailTM that gives you like a temporary email API, all of these functionalities as a service. So if you get like a two-factor email from NPM, you'll have a SaaS service giving you API to read this email and to automate it even easier. So they also launched over 2,000 packages. Their purpose was to mine cryptocurrency, Monero cryptocurrency. So we also launched this tracker project. At some point, CuteBoy noticed our report, and in their second batch of malicious packages, this is what they placed in their metadata. This is actually the link to the tracker project of what we created. So we get quoted by attackers. So it was quite fun to see. Eventually, NPM removed all of these packages. It's a cat and a mouse game. You're welcome to check out these projects. I'll post links later. So what I want you to remember from these examples, we're dealing with advanced persistent threats. These attackers are persistent. They're focused on their goals, and they will continue their best to achieve it. I want to challenge what I said before. Is a good reputation hard-won? We bumped into one of these two packages. And notice this name. Pumpy.io and Pumpy. These packages are on Python, PyPy. So this attack technique is called typo squatting. The attackers choose a similar name to a popular package, and they build on it on developers will not notice. So we inspected both packages, and we saw it contains the exact same code. Except Pumpy.io having in its metadata additional dependency. And this dependency having all like 3 lines of code. Let me help you out. It's a reversed URL, exfiltrating environment variables into a self-hosted service on Heroku, sending it to the attacker. Quite easy. So this is the malicious package, this is the popular package. But what's concerning is if I, as a developer, bumped into this package and inspect it, it looks legit. It even has, it looks popular, it looks like it has many stars. So how is that? And this is something I'm going to show you, how easy it is to create such an attacks. So This tool is called Package Lab. It was created by my team. It helps us to demonstrate the issue in software supply chain and helps us to demonstrate how easy it is to create malicious packages from an attacker's point of view. So all I need is an identity, an email account, nothing too complex, and a name of a package. Like domains, this name needs to be available. So I'm using here supply chain demo. And I would recommend not choosing version 0.0.1 because it looks fresh. So I would choose something like 1.2.3. This step is optional. Like you can provide your reference Git project where the package's code is hosted. So I'm just going to browse the trending projects on GitHub. Choose like this economics books GitHub repository. And this repository is having over 9,000 stars. Quite popular. So this is where the payload, or the code inside of our code package is going to be placed. I'm not going to show how to write malicious code, maybe a different talk next year, but it's a snippet fetched from pastebin, executing, injecting code, and then stealing environment variables and SSH keys. So we're going to launch this package, only stating that this GitHub repository belongs to our package. And what do you know? Even though created 10 seconds ago, it's having over 9,000 stars. So there is an issue here, right? This attack technique called starjacking, and we see that exploited by attackers, usually combined with typo squatting. So talking about why it's that easy, like all of the examples I showed you. Regarding account takeover, not all maintainers configure two-factor authentication. Sadly, it's 2022, and it's still an issue. Like if you detect from you buy someone's username and password, some data leak, you have many users did not activate two-factor authentication. NPM, as a measure of enforcing, they started enrolling two-factor for top 500, 100 NPM packages. So even though they force users to enroll into two-factor, this is something we saw 2 weeks ago. It's phishing as a service capable of bypassing MFA. And the attackers are listing here services like GitHub, NPM, PyPy. And we saw that exploited last month. First seen phishing attack, if someone reads like the security reports, first seen phishing attack against PyPy users. So they actually got like phishing campaigns sent over them. 2 packages were compromised using these campaigns. Combined research with checkmarks and Sentinel-1, we were able to track not only the campaigns, but also another activities involving malicious samples, ledger, like cryptocurrency, key hijacking, etc. So regarding starjacking and typo squatting, the ecosystem is not built for security. It was not designed for it. And it's hard to know who's telling the truth. Whenever someone is publishing a new package, no vetting. Like you can upload whatever you want, you can state whatever you want. Due to that lack of vetting, we are seeing typo squatting campaigns. So this campaign we saw last month, over 12 malicious packages. Look in the similarity. Huge amount of downloads. And the attackers are improving, and this attacker was fetching configuration from GitHub. So whenever his GitHub page was taken down, he had logic to try to fetch his new configuration from accounts does not exist yet. So he would, in this case, register these sequence of accounts, any of them. So his malware was fetching a new configuration from the first one hit. This technique is called domain generation algorithm, DGA. And we looked on this attacker's configuration, and we saw he's targeting a Counter-Strike server, CS 1.6, as a distributed denial of service. So you know what we did? We opened, until GitHub's taking down his GitHub repository, we opened an issue inviting him for a one versus one match on Counter-Strike. I'm still waiting for the attacker to accept the challenge. Another reason we see these kind of attacks is our ecosystem have auto-update mechanism by design. So whenever we depend on a specific version, if there are minor version available, it will fetch by default. This is designed to originally to fetch the security updates faster, but we saw that exploited by the URPaster.js incident. This is why the attackers published simultaneously free version covering all of the range of firmware. Another reason we see these things is, how many of you maintain open source projects in the audience? Raise your hand. All right. So I maintain a couple of open source projects, and at some point you are tired from specific project and you move on. So you have archived project, abandoned projects. So I got this message from someone. I created a Dart package when I played with Flutter, and I moved on. So I had this open source package, and someone told me, hey, you have a lot of issues. You don't have time to maintain it, I understand, but I'm a student. I would like to get permissions to maintain this project and contribute. Guess what I said? Take it away. This is yours. Now you're now a maintainer. Because it makes sense. I don't have time for this project anymore. People will pass away at some point. You have hands switching. This is the project, by the way. I'm not part of the statistics, hoping not to become part of the statistics. Talking with security officers, CISOs, security engineers, they are very enforcing zero trust. They're closing the gaps in their organizations. And whenever it comes to code packages, if it's on GitHub, no problem. If it's open source, no problem. So there is a paradox between we blindly trust what we get from the open source, but other products, other services needs to go through very, very strict processes. What's your regulations, etc. So we have other moving parts across the supply chain. So we talked a lot about dependencies, but we also have IDE plugins. I mean, who's not customizing his IDE, installing tools, all kind of plugins? Who knows? They might be malicious or contributed with malicious code in the future. Same goes for GitHub apps. Artifact servers, Sonatype Nexus, JFrog, Artifactory. Even if npm remove a malicious package, it might be cached, in your organization artifact server. Malicious build server plugins. I think this is after dependencies, this is what scares me the most. What do we do? There are a lot of risks in open source. We need to understand. Vulnerabilities are not malicious. It's okay to have some vulnerabilities because they are not applied on your projects, but never okay to have malicious dependencies. You need to get rid of them as soon as possible. As an industry, we need to share more information. If there's someone from NPM, GitHub, PyPy, it's okay you remove this malware you find, but whenever it's being removed, we have no evidence for researchers or other people to learn from what the attackers are doing, how they evolve. So there is no shared evidence once it's being removed. And we don't have standard to classify malware findings. Like comparing that to CVEs, every company is inventing its wheel, it's running its standard, and you don't have ways to track if you were infected by some malware in open source. So we need a better standards, and we're working hard to create these standards. At the end of the day, all of us are in this together. We'll have to work with other companies and share information. If any of you need access to one of these samples, shoot me an email. We would love to share it. This is our responsibility, not someone's responsibility. And as Uncle Ben said, with great power comes great responsibility. So if you are an open source maintainer, please enroll to two-factor authentication. Remember, if you are seeing a popular project, not necessarily it's going to put you on the safe side. Vet your strangers' code. Don't believe whatever you see. Thank you very much.
Right, thank you. Yeah, I looked at the questions and there's a lot of great questions, but there's one that we need to clarify. What's wrong with styled components?
So if I remember correctly, it was the beginning of this year, it was corrupted by its maintainer. I can give the specific report, but it was added a new functionality, I think, also to as a protestware to take a political side, if I remember correctly.
Okay. If you noticed or you didn't notice, there's a board there for those circles you can discuss there. There's a flip chart and you can write topics there. Supply chain security is one of the topics on the board later today. I put it there so I know. And we can sit there and chat in the afternoon. So there's going to be plenty of room for those questions, I hope. And now we're a bit past time, so please go get coffee, look around. And one last announcement, at the bottom of our website, there's the link to the auction. The auction has now surpassed 1,500 PLN, and I didn't expect that, so thank you for those who are participating.